Hey guys, what's up?
Hello,
What's
Sailor.
up? What's up, everybody?
Hey.
What's up? Just doing a podcast.
You know, just
That's
hanging
it.
out,
You know,
The
drinking
usual.
beer, drinking whiskey, doing a podcast.
Hey, Sailor, how's the weather by you?
Hey Matt, how's the weather by you?
Oh, it's delightful.
Same here.
hey, I actually went outside
Yeah.
with just a hoodie on and not a big parka today.
Oh damn. Let me tell you, we have an episode coming up that I'm really excited about. I had the opportunity to hang out with Ed once again as I was blowing through Chicago. Get it? Blowing through Chicago. And we stopped at Few Spirits to hang out with our good buddy Paul Letgo. And we were right behind a storm as we were driving through. And Paul was like, well, I'm going to close the distillery, so I don't know what the weather is going to be like. And I was like, damn, if you're closing something in Chicago, that must be a pretty bad fucking storm. It was like 10 feet of snow on the ground. I don't know. It was fucking nuts and freezing. But we had a good time. And then I made it down to Florida, where I am now. I am not moving ever again. That's it.
That trip through Chicago just gave you one final reminder
That was it.
why you're headed south.
That was it. I tell you what, we left Spokane and there was a storm right behind us. We were headed through the upper plains, and man, we had like minus one night. It was like, I think we were in Minnesota. It was like North Dakota minus 26. Like I was screenshotting the weather app. Poor Robin had to like get the luggage out of off the thing on the top of the car. And oh my god, it was horrible. So cold.
Beyond even humanly like acceptable.
Yeah. And the landscape, 26. Like there's nothing to look at but like a wasteland of frozen. Looked like we were on Mars. And then then we roll through Tennessee right after they got butt fucked by that horrific storm. Everything was still encased in ice. I'm pretty sure they were just starting to get power back. We were going to stop and hang out with Kayla, but we just decided to blow through. And then we get to Atlanta, which was the last stop before we were making it to Florida. And it was actually really nice, sunny. For us, it was really warm. I was like, get out the tank top and shorts. And they're all like, well, I can wear a light jacket. And then I got to Florida and we were swimming the next day. It was fucking rad.
Amazing.
Nice.
And then I got to have dinner with Matt and Jenny.
That was a lot of fun.
Super fun.
Yeah, I saw that some of those Instagram posts. You had some interesting looking cocktails.
Yeah, we went to this place called Voodoo. What the hell is it called? Voodoo Lounge?
Voodoo Bayou.
Voodoo Bayou. I don't know. Voodoo Bayou.
Okay.
It was really nice. It was. I mean, we sat there for 8,000 hours. I hope the server liked us. We kept his table his entire shift. I'm pretty sure he just got on shift when Robin and I arrived, but we drank a lot, so you know.
He was cool. He was cool.
Yeah, he was cool. He's a new listener, right, Matt?
Yeah, I hope so. I was selling us really hard, to him. So, like, you like metal? You like whiskey? Yeah. All right. Here's a sticker.
What the fuck keeps happening? Sorry, my computer's freaking the fuck out. I don't know what's going on. Stop doing that. Sorry.
Oh, it's. Am I adjusting your screen too?
Is that you?
Sorry.
Son of a bitch.
I thought it was only for me. It's like Teams or whatever. You can adjust your screen however you want. But it's for everybody.
It's for everybody.
Sorry,
I kept looking it back thinking, my computer's possessed. What is happening?
That's our new special effects budget we have here at the Spirit of Rock Podcast Network.
My bad.
That's the big money, yo.
Coming at you from all different directions.
Got brand new buttons down here. What did these do?
First we look like this. Then we look like this. And then this. How about this? And this. There you go. You got your money's worth.
All right.
Anyway.
Sorry, I have to tinker.
Anyway, he has to tinker. So we just started a really cool giveaway, which will be finished by the time this comes out. But I'm super excited about it. It won't be the last time we do it. We'll do it again. But so definitely stay tuned. I gave away a 1-year subscription to American Whiskey Magazine, just in case you want to read the shit I write in there, and then a bunch of whiskey samples and swag, and then some kick-ass gear from CAO Cigars. This gear is amazing. And some cigars. So I'm really super excited about it. And whoever wins, because it's a big, big haul, we'll have to have them on the show to hang out with us.
All right. To thank
us. We should do it.
And praise us. Just kidding. All right. So what are we doing tonight? Ed?
Well, I believe tonight we are going to attempt to wrap up our second Metallica series. And tonight we will be ending it by discussing two of the late earlier albums, and Justice for All, and of course their self-titled Black Album.
We call it the last two of their classic Metallica albums.
Yes.
I like that. Late earlier.
If you have been a fan since the beginnings, you know that this is when things got really fucking heated, when we first attempted to go down the Metallica rabbit hole. There was a big split between the four of us at the time when Jake was with us. And I went back and listened to it. If you haven't, you might want to just pause this and go back to and listen to the original Metallica series. I might change my mind on a couple of things, but I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, I think we threw some fisticuffs, and was that when there was a buck axe, or was that earlier on?
Oh my gosh, it may have been on an earlier show. I don't know, but I
think it was this show.
Were definitely involved.
I think Jake and I spilled a little bit of blood, so but it was fun.
Yeah, that was the weapon of choice.
There was bloodshed. Yes,
there was bloodshed. Yeah, but that's the point, right? It's a battle, man. Before we get into the subject, though, let's talk about news, and then let's talk about whiskey.
All right,
let's do it. Matt? So I have two huge pieces of whiskey news.
Oh shit!
These are huge, and these affect really only the old world whiskey drinkers. So your Scotch, Irish, Japanese whiskey drinkers, which I am. So this affects me directly. Yeah, and you. Yep. So the U.S., as of last week, I believe I was reading this on Mark Gillespie's website, suspended the 25% tariff on Scotch and Irish whiskey. Yes, for a 4-month period. I don't know why it's only 4 months. Hopefully it lasts longer than
forever,
that.
Please.
Forever, yes. But, and I commented on Mark's page about this, is that I wonder what retailers are going to do with this, because they've already jacked their prices. Now, when they reorder and do they roll back to the original price? Do they split it 50-50 and get kind of greedy? Or do they just keep it? I mean, the consumers nowadays are way more informed than they used to be with stuff like this.
Well, this is big news. I mean, everyone's heard this news. I think the tough thing is it depends on who you're talking about as a retailer. So obviously, if you've already ordered, you've ordered under those prices, right? Mm-hmm. So when does this actually go into effect? When does the price change actually happen? Do we know that? It was, even though this was approved, and when does this start? Let's pretend.
I mean, there could be a lag.
A grace period, yeah. If it starts like tomorrow, okay, fine. So then the next time I order such and such, it's going to be cheaper for me. I'll tell you what, I have a feeling that a lot of whiskey drinkers are going to pay attention. And I would certainly say something, in 3 months from now, if it's a small store, most likely they don't have that stock anymore. If it's a popular, let's say it's a Glenfiddich 12, for example, they don't have stock from 2 months ago, you know. But if you're a major retailer, how much stock do you buy? Like, are you buying pallets? Like, how long does that last to go through that inventory? And if it's only 4 months, to be honest with you, if I'm the retailer and I'm not sure it's going to last more than 4 months, I'm not going to change my prices because that's expensive as well.
From my perspective, and I don't know the ins and outs because it is above my pay grade, unfortunately, but it seemed that at the time, the place that I work, which I won't mention here, but they bought in big and then the prices went up. So do with that information what you will.
Yeah.
You know, money talks.
Yeah.
Bullshit walks.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's to be honest with you, I think it affects the brands, I think, more than the consumer in this instance, because the brands it was a little bit more difficult, especially for smaller brands, to export, right?
Correct.
Because now the product is a lot more expensive, and export is already more expensive in certain cases. So they definitely saw a decline in sales. Absolutely. Again, if this is a temporary thing, or if most people aren't watching, if it's only maybe like a $5 change once it's like, on the shelf, is it a big deal to consumers? I really think like I said, I think the aficionados are going to call people out. Otherwise, I don't know. But also the answer could be, hey, I still have the same stock, but I think brands are going to see a difference for sure.
The only brand that, from my perspective, has seemed to be immune to this is Macallan, because I think that no matter what price they sell their stuff for, or what prices retailers set their products at, the brand loyalty is there and people are just going to spend the money on it. I mean, their 12-year where I work is now like $76. I mean, that was like a $50 bottle, I feel like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, Oban 14 is now $100. Like that's one brand that is not moving as quickly as it used to because of this. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, definitely. I
think it also depends on, for major brands, how their distribution works, because if it really just depends on, because in Europe you have to have brokers. In the UK, your brokers to your distribution, what does your distribution look like? Where I think also that's going to play a huge factor as well, because I know there was some fiddling and ways to get around that, and some brands had prepared for it. I don't know how long that lasted, but a lot of questions. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Absolutely.
Do you know, have there, in, like, for example, in car companies, you might have like Toyota, which will open up a factory in Indiana and produce their cars in the US. Has there ever been an instance where there's been like a European, English, or Scotch brand whiskey that's opened up a distillery in the US?
Well, you can't if you're Scotch. It's not Scotch anymore.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
so you can't
do it. Legal. Yeah.
Guinness attempted. So beer brands, I don't know. I know that there was a big price cost change on this. So beer brands used to bottle in the States if they were imports, right? So that went on for a while, and then frankly, it really just depends on the cost of labor versus the cost of shipping. I mean, if you can just send it over on a shipping container, then why screw around with having, unless you're working with a co-packer or a contract brewer or something like that. And there are a lot of imports as far as beer and wine goes, that they do use contract distilleries, contract wineries, whether it's to actually make it or whether it's just to bottle it and distribute it and package it up, but not. I don't know of any of that for whiskey. Do you, Matt?
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It seems like some of those distilleries could actually realize some savings if they shipped over the casks to the U.S.
though.
And have them bottled over here. You don't think so?
I also think that breaks the bond. I don't think. I mean, bottled in bond. And some of the, I don't know how the bonding works in other categories, but
Is there bottled and bond scotch?
well, Scotch is it's basically a bottled and bond without using the term bottled and bond, right? So once especially a single malt, you couldn't do that, right?
No, we're gonna see this in my next story too, because it has to do specifically with this what Ed just mentioned, but different country.
Okay, well, there's a good segue.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're going to talk about. I know
Yes.
exactly what's coming next.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think for whiskey anyone would do that. I don't really think that would work. Then that gets in the whole discussion of MGP brands, which Matt and I had a pretty hilarious text conversation last night about a certain MGP brand.
Yep.
We'll keep it to ourselves.
For now.
Let's just say that if you are someone that relies on professional reviews, I'm going to put professional in quotations, air quotes, professional tasters, air quotes. I don't think you should rely on them. I think you should rely on your own taste buds. If you like it, great. If you don't, you don't.
Yes, and that is something that we always advocate here.
Always.
We don't claim to be professional tasters.
Nope.
We claim to be whiskey enthusiasts who always advocate for you, the listener and watcher, to make your own judgments, and you like what you like, and we don't judge you. So
Exactly.
Unless you drink Crown Royal, then I judge you.
Touche.
I'll tell you why. So we're gonna do this anonymously. So there's an anonymous person who used to shit all over a certain MGP brand, and was just very much against being a whiskey brand and not distilling your own liquid, not having your own distillery, all of those things, which is absolutely it's ridiculous, first of all. Then this person chose that same brand as the winner in a blind, I'm doing air quotes again, tasting. And I have a problem with it because for many reasons, like if you're paid to taste something, are you gonna not like it? I don't know. If you weren't getting paid before and you're getting paid now, is your opinion gonna change? I hope not. That's why I just think it shouldn't be, I don't know. I just have a problem with the way these reviews happen and the way people rely on these tastings. Oh, well, so-and-so, Mr. X didn't like it. I really like everything he likes. Well, if you've been following Mr. X for 5 years, I can name 20 brands that Mr. X has flipped on. So perhaps you don't rely so much on that and you just make your own determinations. If you want to rely on reviews before you buy an expensive bottle, I get that, but you're going to have to look at like 10 different reviews and maybe take the majority. But, Michael Veach wrote a really incredible article. I don't know if you caught that, Matt. It was really about professional tasting, especially in for the big awards. The amount of liquid they have to taste in such a short period of time, your palate is blown. So you're lucky if maybe you were up front, but if you're on the back end, are you going to get chosen? Perhaps not. And also, these are only a few people. How about have 100 people taste it all? Instead of sending a whole bottle, just do a 2-ounce sample to 100 people and see how many people out of 100 like it and what they like about it, rather than 6 people, or 8 people or 4 people. I have a difficult time with that. Awards are important, very important. To be recognized by your own community is very important. It's this business we work really, really hard in, but I don't know, people just sitting there passing judgment on shit. I have a problem with that. Unless they say this is my own opinion, I'm not getting paid. I just do this for fun. Don't take my word for it. That's different.
That's totally fine.
Totally
I'm
different.
good
We
with
do it
that.
all the time. But I'm not telling you don't buy this or go buy I do say go buy this because I love it, but you know what I mean. The brand isn't paying me to do that. I don't even do that with the brand that I work for. So,
That's true.
Anyway, end of that rant.
Okay. So, second piece of whiskey news, Japanese whiskey. Something
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of, a huge proponent of.
Yeah, this was big news.
Big news. Yeah. And I can firsthand, again, tell you why this was necessary from a retail perspective. But they finally, regulation-wise, have defined Japanese whiskey as Japanese whiskey. And it has a lot to do with the disappearance of off the shelves of the big brands of Japanese whiskey, your Hakushus, your Yamazakis, your Japanese single malts with age statements. You have a lot of these secondary brands popping up now that might say Japanese malt whiskey on it. They might not use barley, but they might use rice or something like that. But basically, and there's one brand in particular, I'm not going to name it, but they are importing aged whiskey from Scotland, transferring it, say, into Mizunara oak, finishing it, then bottling it, and calling it Japanese malt whiskey. So that will no longer be the case. I don't know what they're going to relabel those bottles as, but Japanese whiskey will now have to be 100% produced in Japan. And I'm glad for that.
Yes.
Because a lot of consumers are getting hoodwinked on this.
Yeah. I think that was definitely necessary.
Hoodwinked because of the price. And also, Japanese whiskey deserves to be protected. It deserves to have its own category. And I mean, it's a beautiful, gorgeous product with a super interesting history as well. Americans think that Japanese whiskey is very new because it's very new to this market. Japanese whiskey has a very long history. I'd say just as long as American whiskey, actually. Maybe a little bit younger, probably.
A little bit younger, but I mean, you're talking
commercial product. About
100 years. I mean,
yeah. So, and it's if you have had real Japanese whiskey, it may remind you of Scotch, but it has its own taste profile completely. And I'm really super excited that the brands that I love and that are, doing the right thing artfully are going to be protected. And that's fantastic. And that the consumers will, and my fear is always a consumer is going to pick up a bottle of whiskey that they think is Japanese whiskey and it's something subpar and go, oh, I don't like the category, because that happens. And that breaks my heart. I want someone to pick. It's kind of it's a fear as a brand ambassador I've always had. Like, what if someone makes a crappy cocktail and they're like, oh, I had that X and X whiskey. It was garbage because the cocktail was garbage.
Well,
you're already
you're already kind of getting there, because people who have had it have their expectations set so high from the 3 or 4 home run brands that we've seen, your Hakushus, Yamazakis, your Nikkas. And now that you have 24 brands on the shelf now, they're going to try these other ones with those high expectations and ultimately be let down.
Yeah, because they're going to go, ooh, this one's less expensive and looks interesting. Why don't I try this?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's great news. I'm really excited.
I don't think I've actually had a Japanese whiskey, except, well, maybe I have.
What?
Matt, didn't you send us a sample of a Nika or something like that one time?
I did. Yeah, Nika from the barrel.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think that was probably the only one I've ever had. But yeah, I am a Japanese whiskey.
You got to go out and get yourself some Hibiki Harmony.
Hibiki Harmony. Okay, that's one I remember. You guys brought up to me before, said that I should be good one to start out with.
It's a great gateway.
Yeah.
Great gateway. And then Yamazaki. I love Yamazaki. All right. So since we're talking about whiskey, let's have a song first, and then we'll talk about what we're all drinking, because I'm drinking something very, very special tonight, which actually kind of goes along with our discussion in a way. little musical break there. What's
Love
everyone
that
drinking?
song.
Yeah, oh my God. We're going to talk about that song. We're definitely going to talk about that song.
I think actually that was the first song I ever heard off of that particular album.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
Very interesting. Who wants to go first?
I will go first because we are talking about Metallica and the Black Album and Justice for All. Most specifically, I had to get out my bottle of Blackened. I mean, come on. When is a better opportunity to drink this bottle than now? Seriously. I mean, how could I not? So that's what I have in my glass tonight.
Which batch do you have?
Oh, yeah, I have batch 98.
Do you know what your playlist was?
Um,
Okay, so 98 was arranged by James. You had Just a Bullet Away, Here Comes Revenge, No Remorse, Unforgiven 3, Harvester of Sorrow, and Justice for All.
And Justice for All. There we go. Perfect.
Motor Breath and Thorn Within.
Motor Breath. Nice.
So random.
And the one next to me, that is random. I know. Oh, I have the special one, so I don't know where I've got the record for that one, the 100. But anyway, yeah.
Although No Remorse is probably, I've said this before, one of my most favorite, if not the favorite song off of Kill 'Em All for me. I love that song. So
it's a great fucking song.
Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like people who like or dislike blackened whiskey, it's very 50-50, it seems to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique whiskey. It's definitely not your bourbon. If you're a bourbon fan and you drink this, it's going to be a little different than what you're used to. But I do enjoy it, actually. I don't drink it a lot, but if I'm looking for something a little different than my standard bourbon, then yeah, I will pull this out occasionally and have a little bit of it. Yeah, just to mix it up a bit. But yeah, it's good stuff.
What makes it not taste like a traditional bourbon for you?
It's a little more savory. I think at least the batch that I have I don't get a lot of the more caramel and vanilla notes that I normally get out of this. To me, it almost tastes like a blend of like a bourbon and a scotch. To me, is kind of like what I get out of this. I almost get some scotch notes out of it, as well as some bourbon notes. Yeah, it's really unique. I don't know how better to describe it, but that's kind of how I taste it.
I haven't really met anybody that hasn't enjoyed it, that has actually had it.
I have. Yeah. I talk about it a lot, so I mean, for a while I saw a lot more people into it, and I just feel like now I see like very 50-50, but
yeah. I feel like if someone gave this to me in a blind and said, "What are you drinking?" I would probably have a hard time deciding whether I was drinking a scotch or a bourbon.
Really?
Yeah.
It doesn't have any malt. Well, I mean, you've got a little bit of malted barley and everything for conversion, but it's just a bourbon and a rye, really. So I find that really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have the Band-Aidy notes, but
it's not.
Yeah, it's really, really unique for sure. I can't think of anything else in my collection that I could really, off the top of my head, compare it to. It said, "Oh, this is very similar to this."
I think that for me, I think it's interesting now that Rob's been in charge of the whiskey, and I think it was batch 100, the special one that he was actually responsible for. I find a big taste difference between those and the early batches.
Did you hear that he I guess I saw his post, actually, Rob Dietrich's post. They're coming out with a barrel strength
Yeah.
version,
Yep.
which is awesome.
I think it came out, didn't it already?
It may have, but
I think isn't that the S&M2? No,
Yes.
Is it?
Yep.
I think so. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, the S&M. I think
It
there's
was in
one
conjunction with the album.
right. Okay, there's one and two out now, right? Or no?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, I would love to taste that. See how that is.
I almost grabbed a bottle when it first came out because it was like I like getting for things like this, like the special box sets and whatever, but I didn't grab it. But I mean, it's a really great price. It's under $50. I mean, before
Really?
taxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, it's priced really, really well.
Wait, you're talking for the cask strength?
Yes.
Wow.
That's before tax.
I paid like $45 for this, so that's pretty close.
Yeah,
to
it's like I
price.
think it's like I don't know, Matt. What do you guys sell? I think it's like 48.
I don't have it. The cast strength one?
Oh, you don't have it? Oh.
No.
Was it only online?
Possibly.
No, it might have been.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Was it a cask? I think it was a casker special release, right?
Oh, maybe.
If I remember. Okay.
I don't think it was in retail stores though.
That's yeah. You're right. That makes sense. Well, Matt, what about you? What are you drinking?
Well, I'm not really drinking anything Metallica related, so I'm not drinking my Blackened, which I'm very low on, by the way. But, power with this album, talking justice. So I am drinking Cash Strength. I'm drinking non-chill filtered, right? I'm drinking something that's 7 years old. Justice came out 7 years into their career. So there's some parallels there, right?
Nice.
So I am drinking the ever sought after Blue Spot Irish whiskey. Yes.
Interesting.
Ooh.
This stuff is. I've been really not that I've never done it before, but I've really been reading my labels lately and really going for the non-chill filtered stuff. You just get so much more flavor out of it. You're not stripping all those beautiful fatty oils and congeners away. And Cash Strength non-chill filtered Irish is going to be a thing. You're going to see more expressions like this. I know Redbreast just released one too.
Good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this stuff is unbelievably delicious. 54% ABV. I'm sorry, 58.7 ABV.
Wow.
And loaded with tropical fruit. A nice nuttiness on the back end. Just very unique and well balanced. And for something that's the youngest in the Spot series, I think this actually outpaces the older stuff. That's just my opinion. This stuff is fantastic, worth every penny.
I'm gonna have to try that. I have not had the Blue Spot yet, and I almost grabbed it off the shelf one day, and I forgot what I got instead, but I'll have to do it now on your recommendation.
Yeah, I was chatting with Mark Gillespie on Instagram, friend of the show, by the way, and he said that he didn't really see Blue Spot out in the wild so much as in stores, but I think my store only got 3 bottles of it, and I'm like, I am buying one of those. I don't care how much it is. So it's going to set you back about $100, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
worth it.
Yeah, it was in my honey hole in Spokane of this little tiny store, an amazing store called Eggers Liquors, and they've been in business for a long time. They're family owned, and they know how to get all the good stuff. So they're the ones that gave us the Yamazaki as a Christmas present.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is really, really nice.
Stay in contact with them.
Yeah, of course.
For real.
So tonight I'm also drinking. I'm drinking something that to me relates to the discussion tonight. So when I got into Metallica, they were well known, but metal was still kind of like, it was a small category, let's say, right? That kind of thrash metal. Metallica was not commercially
well known. Still very, very niche back in.
Yeah, it was still, what we would call underground.
Yes.
And so I'm drinking something that, you could call underground. And the distiller is a rock, he's a rocker himself, and he toured with musicians and rock and metal, and he's a rebel in what he does. He does his own thing. He doesn't really give a damn what people think about it. He just does it for the love of the craft, and it's phenomenal and delicious. I'm drinking Few Spirits Single Malt American whiskey.
Oh yeah.
Is, I have to say, phenomenal. So it's probably the most unique American single malt I've tasted so far, and I'm a big fan. If you follow the show, you know that Matt and I have been talking about American single malts for years. We predicted, when everybody was still like, rye is the next big thing. I'm like, oh, rye is over already. Hello. It was, come on now. It's all about American single malts. And sure enough, it's one of the most popular emerging categories in whiskey right now. I'm hearing from in Europe as well. They're kind of freaking out over the American single malts. So this one is very woodsy. So the amount of barrel in it to me reminds me of a barrel proof bourbon. Although it doesn't taste anything like a bourbon, it tastes like a single malt whiskey. Which is just phenomenal. I love it. When I first started sipping on it, I was like, whoa, is this too much barrel? Is this too much wood? But once you let it just linger on the palate, once you get to know it, once you let it all open up, once you swallow it down and you're really getting all of that finish in there, it's really something special. It's got a beautiful color. It's got a really light golden color. It's just full of marzipan. It's full of peach and like white grape juice, and then you get all of that wet woodsiness in there, which is just beautiful. It's a fantastic whiskey. It is a 93 proof, so you get a little bit of that heat in there. You've got a nice body in it. It's just beautiful. And I know the word smooth is out. I don't really give a shit. It's an easy descriptor. It is incredibly smooth. It's incredibly velvety. Yeah, it's phenomenal. And the nose on it is really interesting because the nose is all fruit and honey and zero wood. And then once you taste it, you're knocked down by that wood, but in a really good way. Not like I've had the problem with some younger whiskeys. I just feel like I'm smelling IKEA furniture, but that's what I'm tasting, and it's really unfortunate and unpleasant. And I don't know if it's because it's a young whiskey or they're in smaller barrels, but the smaller your barrels, you can be overdone in a split second and not realize it, and it's too late, But this is really, it just hits that point where the woodsiness is perfect. So that is what I'm drinking tonight. So
sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to go out.
Cheers, everybody. Yes.
Find a bottle of that.
Yeah, you're right there too.
Yep.
Come on now. You're right there.
In the market for sure.
Exactly. So how about we have a song and then get into our subject? What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So tonight, as Ed mentioned earlier in the show, we are going to go back down that rabbit hole in our Metallica Them All series. We're going to talk about And Justice for All and the Black Album. Let's start off with And Justice for All. So it is the fourth studio album by Metallica, released in 1988, September 7th. It was the first album without Cliff. So we have Jason Newsted on bass, or we don't. We'll get into that later. This album changed everything for the band. Or should we say Master of Puppets changed everything for the band. So the popularity of Master of Puppets and the success of the band got them to And Justice for All. And Justice for All was a result of that and became an incredibly popular album and launched them into commercial success. This is also the first album of their career with an actual recording studio budget. What I mean by that is they had a budget unlike they had ever had before. So let's talk about what we discussed last time we approached this. And for me, this is the last album that I really consider to be classic Metallica. I wasn't thrilled with this album, although I love the album. It already seemed like a little bit of a departure from everything they had done before. And that's a natural progression. That's also, like I said, they have a different studio budget, and they're a different band, really. But also, this was a place and time for me personally as a teenager. I was one of those kids that was saved by music. I needed that release. I don't know. I mean, heavy metal and rock really, really saved me. I had a rough childhood. So when we discussed this previously, Metallica being the reason we started this podcast, I came at this subject full of my own personal feelings and my own biases and my own personal experience and my own disappointment in where the band would head after this, which is fair and unfair. Taste is subjective. We talk about that with whiskey. Music taste is subjective as well, unless the band is complete shite. I gave the band a really, really hard time on this album, and I remember a few things that Jake had said that I really didn't give any credence, and I feel like I should have. I cannot imagine what it was like for these men. They were so young, and to have the horrific loss of Cliff, the way he died was absolutely horrific. To have that happen to you at such a young age, and have to continue on. I can only imagine now, being in my late 40s, they would be, they could have been my children at this age. How unequipped they were to deal with something like that. And it affected every aspect of their lives. And watching interviews with them, going back and thinking about where they were in their head, I think this album is a hell of a feat for where they were as a band.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give this album a lot more credit right now than I did previously, kind of from a bird's eye view. It's pretty phenomenal and impressive, and we know them for who they are now, that coming out of such a tragedy like that, losing an integral member of the band. And I think that up until now, we have all agreed how important Cliff was to this band, how important he was to their sound, and how important he was as a musician to helping these guys become better musicians. And better writers. So they did an amazing job. It just signals the end of the Metallica that I so loved. And so I know that's where I was coming from last time. But the writing on this is amazing. The big problem that I have with this album is there's no bass.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this last time. It's absolutely ridiculous what happened on the album with the bass. Whoever is responsible for it is neither here nor there. They were, working with Flemming Rasmussen, and I don't really think they had a lot of control over what they were doing. I think that Mr. Ulrich had more control at the time probably than ever before. And I don't know if they were in the place to fight something like that. I don't know if they were able to, and I think I can only imagine how much it hurt them to have someone else playing that instrument and have someone else's sound, on that album that wasn't Cliff. So, should they have been given some more time to record their next album? I wonder how different that would have been.
Well, yeah, but it's a very interesting album given the circumstances.
Yeah.
This is one of their more visceral albums, in my opinion. And I'm thinking I've thought about this a lot since we've originally discussed this. and I've know more about the history of it and what they were going through, being young guys losing a brother. And I'm starting to piece together why I think I liked this album so much is because there is so much emotion
Mm-hmm.
in this album. This is a very emotional album. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of pain being reflected in both the writing and the musical style in here. Like I said, it's a very visceral album, and I think that's one of the couple of the reasons that really drew me to this album, because it really elicits emotional responses, feelings, and it conjures up, if you're just if you're frustrated about something and you just kind of want to let it all out, this is a great album to listen to. Because there's so much. It's a roller coaster ride of emotions, and so without beating on that too much, that's just kind of what I was thinking when you were talking about that.
I think that you both hit the nail on the head to a certain extent. For me, and my opinion has changed slightly, where I would rack my brain trying to figure out, is this album a progression? Is it a detour that would lead to another detour that would ultimately derail them? Or is it just the byproduct of absolute anguish and pain? And this album does not exist if their bass player does not die. We do not get this album.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
We do not get this album. And I think after all these years, I've finally accepted that this is 100% a byproduct of their bass player dying. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. That being said, you said it, Sailor, they were so young, so tough to process. As a young musician, you feel invincible when you're on the road and you're with your buddies and something like this happens. And I think that there was some deflection in the material on this album. I do think that there's the anger and the pain and the madness, but I think that it's deflected toward other things. I don't think they fully knew how to embrace the raw emotion that they were feeling in order to actually put the sadness onto tape. And it came out in other subjects. You're going to hate me for using this parallel here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Both of you are going to hate me for using this parallel. But I think that with Saint Anger, I think that the pain that he felt writing those lyrics, I think it completely 100% translates onto tape. And he attacked what was killing him. On this, I think that they had to deflect it because they just weren't mature enough to embrace the pain that they were feeling.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
No, I think that's fair.
No, I do
Yeah.
too. I think it is fair. And I think also what's interesting is they were not happy with the way this was recorded, with the sound, the way it came out on so many different levels. And I think it's because, Cliff dies in September of 86. This album comes out in September of 88. That's a really fucking short period of time, all in all, to heal from something like that. Imagine you're there, my God, in the accident when he dies.
I mean, they were playing gigs by the end of 86.
I know.
Not 3 months after he died. Not long after the tryouts for new bass players. They didn't take any time off.
That was very much of the time that was the best thing to do. That was recommended. And perhaps they wanted to that. Perhaps they felt like if they sat around thinking about it, they'd lose their fucking minds.
That's all they
That's
knew.
fair. I'm not someone that can. I get it because I lost a friend recently, and we all lost someone that we cared for very much in our whiskey fabric recently. And when I lost my dear friend Mike, I couldn't. I think I kind of run like that. I'm afraid to sit there and process it because I don't want to feel what's coming. You know what I mean? So I just work through it. And in the end, you end up squeezing it into a little box. And my friend Lori and I would say we have a warehouse of all these little boxes stuffed with our shit. And we used to joke when we were single that, when we would date someone, we should say, here's the key to the warehouse and you can walk through it and open the boxes. And if you get out the other side, great, we can date. If not, see you later. So I kind of get that. I also think, being a little more scientific about this, being a little more, looking into the psychology of this, they really got fucked over in the recording too. And so I wonder how different it would have. I think I can imagine. Okay, we're speculating everything here because we don't know, of course. But I'm not going to be up for a fucking fight about the ins and outs of the recording on this album. I'm not going to have it in me. Are you? Would you at that time have it in you to fight? You're still a young band. You're still having to prove yourself. This is your first real big, studio project that's like, a big boys project. I'm not going to have it in me to fight Rasmussen on this. And I think that was a shame because they have, spoken often about how unhappy they were with it, afterwards. So there's so much behind this album. Okay, let's do this. This album in a vacuum is fucking incredible, right? Of course.
Absolutely.
By itself, incredible. It is the first metal album ever to gain commercial success on this scale. Ever. Which leads to why the album bums me out because I wanted everything to stay like it was before.
Yeah.
It went 8 times platinum. It peaked at number 6 on the Billboard chart. I mean, this has never happened before. It was fucking bonkers. And the sound, I talked about this before. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what I was doing. I was in a really very, very difficult place as a teenager when this album came out. Very difficult. And I was in a really physically, everything was very, very bad the day I got my hands on this tape and sat around with my friends and we listened to it and nobody said a fucking word. A pin could have dropped outside of the music. We didn't say anything. We listened to the whole entire thing without speaking. It's something I will never, ever, ever forget. I mean, you would do that, but you'd say things in between songs, but we didn't say a word. I think also we were waiting for the album too, and what a thing to wait for after what had happened with them. Oh my gosh, what is this going to sound like? What is it going to be like without Cliff? How, also, I think the marketing of the album, we knew this was something very different. I had never seen a metal album marketed like that before. If they were marketed at all, really, that was a really big deal. So I think there was a lot of bated breath waiting for this album. So sitting there listening to it, there was so many things going on. Like, it's fucking heavy. It's fucking amazing, but it's also weird to hear that kind of sound from Metallica, right? It's just...
Yeah, you're coming at this. You have a unique perspective in that respect because, like I said, Matt and I got into this album much later than you did. So, yeah, it's. I understand what you're saying, but it's really hard to relate.
I get that. I totally get that. Most people come to this and it's like, oh yeah, it's like a Metallica album, no big deal. But it was not no big deal at the time.
Yeah.
It was a very big deal. And it was and we've talked about this and done this before. Listen to Master of Puppets and then right away listen to And Justice for All. And tell me that you don't recognize how different they are.
Oh, I can tell you right now that, yeah, they are. There's a marked difference, but again, there's so many bands out there that, it's a similar process. Things happen in the band, lineups change, sounds change. That's the way it goes.
Well, sure, but I think we all have something in our lives that we wish never changed, right?
Oh, sure.
We all have that nostalgia. We all have that one thing that we just wanted to remain constant.
I'm not discounting that at all.
I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't judge an album based on that, but then again, you can, because again, it's all subjective, right?
Right, exactly. It's all in the ear of the beholder.
What I find amazing and it's only a 2-year period between Master of Puppets and Injustice for All, is that this was the album that took off to a different stratosphere. Not because I'm privy to Master of Puppets as a better album, but they are completely different, like you said. But what was it in that 2-year period that didn't make Master of Puppets that 8 times platinum album at the time? In 2 years,
Money.
Was there a shifting? You think it was just that?
It was
marketing
absolutely.
machine.
Absolutely.
Marketing machine. Yeah.
Yeah. This was, and that's what I mean. Like it had a different sound. It had a different, it was radio ready, all that shit. It was marketed like a real release. And I'm saying real release, meaning, that wasn't real music at the time. Metal was not something that was the mainstream or
commercial. Radio ready
out
with
of that
8-minute songs,
underground.
though.
Radio ready with the quality of recording and sound and what you expect to hear from like major artists.
So not the songs themselves, technically.
No.
Yeah, because
yeah,
these are long songs. We're not talking about radio friendly song lengths here.
No.
In that respect.
No, sorry, that's not what
I meant.
No, that's not what I meant. Sorry, I should have explained better. I meant that, the quality of recording, the type of sound, and then it's nominated for a Grammy, and I just remember being like, "What the fuck?" Like, if you're a kid,
it's finally happening.
Well, yeah, you don't know any better, so you're like, yeah, man. See, they are a good band. Like, see, they do kick ass, because you don't know what this is gonna mean now that everybody knows about them. That everything's fucked after that. I think we talked about this last time, but it still cracks me up every time I come across it. Who won? Who they lost the Grammy to? Do you guys remember who it is?
Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is just like the most ridiculous thing.
It's so absurd. What is that? Jethro Tull is like fucking flute folk music.
Just today, I was looking through Blabbermouth articles and saw Alice Cooper was reminiscing about that. I guess he was the one who announced it. He's like, I thought I had the wrong envelope.
I would too. I'd be like, oh, I just fucked up on the Grammys. Totally.
And they performed at the Grammy Awards too, by the way.
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
The only reason I was watching that night. I could have given at the time I could have given 2 shits.
Yep.
There wasn't really, I mean, I don't know. The 80s it was a good time for music, but there was like a moment where like I was into like early 80s what was being played on the radio, and then there was like a gap, and then I was like, fuck everything on the radio. And I was like in the it was an of the time thing. It's funny because I came across a review that I didn't read at the time. I read this more recently. There was a reviewer out of Chicago that actually called this the most flattest sounding album, but the most ambitious.
Most flattest.
That's probably the best way to describe this album. The most ambitious and their flattest sounding, I would totally agree with. Totally. That's just me. So, all right. Favorite songs off this album. You can only have one. Give me your favorite songs.
We can only have one?
You can only have one.
Oh, that leaves us one song.
Each.
I'm just kidding.
Dinglings. Give me
you
your
could only pick one. Track number 4.
Track number 4. Come on, Ed.
You said we could only pick one.
You can only pick one song.
Oh.
It's one song
my New York out.
You know what?
What's it going to be, Ed?
This has always been one of my favorite songs off of this album. I'm going to pick this one. One is would be like the popular choice, I'm sure. But when it comes down to it, I really like the Freedoms of Sanity. This album, because to me, there is a dual guitar solo in there where both James and Kirk get going at it. and they just kill it together. It's amazing. So yeah, that's probably one of my favorite moments out of this album is that dual guitar solo on Freight Ends of Sanity. So I'm just gonna pick that song.
Matt, what about you?
Harvester of Sorrow.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yep.
All right, Matt, Harvester of Sorrow. That's probably my second favorite song. One, I can't stand that song. I hated it from the moment it came out. I still hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate the video, the song. I hate it. So let's see if I can make this work. All right, so we have Freight Ends of Sanity and Harvester of Sorrow and Blackened, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Boom. Out of all three of those, which is the best song? That would be Blackened. I'm just going to choose for us.
Amazing.
If we have to do a poll, Blackened's going to win. Come on.
Oh, come on. We have to do a poll now.
All right, Matt.
Okay.
You got to do the poll.
I'm going to leave the write-in vote open. People are going to write in one.
No.
No. There's no write-in.
No write-in.
3 songs.
Here
Don't
come all the
do that,
comments,
please.
right? Oh,
I
no
cannot
one?
have any more chili pepper.
What
moments.
happened to one? How about
No.
one?
Fuck that song.
Eye of the
F-U-Q
beholder.
that song. No. All right. Up next. The Black Album. We blew our special effects budget, or I would have dun 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 with like really good organs right there from like the talkie days.
You're talking about Dramatic Chipmunk?
Don't make me start laughing again. Oh crap, Ed. Okay. Alrighty then. So Metallica, which we call the Black Album because it was stupid to call it Metallica, has got some of the shittiest. This has got to be one of the worst album covers in the history of album covers.
Yeah, you gotta
disagree?
look at. I kind of can make out. There's like a snake down in the coiled snake in the corner.
Here, hold
and
on.
I think
I'm gonna
it's their
spotlight
Metallica
you.
logo up in the.
Hold that up, Ed.
So try to get it without reflection.
Yeah, right there,
you
right
go.
there, right
Yeah,
there.
there it is.
It's stupid. It's garbage. What the fuck is that? So dumb.
Well,
So
at
dumb.
least they did. One of their songs is "Don't Tread on Me," which is, I guess, I know that's why that snake is on the cover. But
Should've just called it that. I mean, maybe they couldn't call it that. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean,
that would have been a better.
I don't know why they couldn't call it
but-
that. It's the name of a song.
that's true. Yeah,
So
that'd be a good
Okay.
poll, like alternate names for that album.
Alternate titles. Yes,
Yeah,
I like that.
Struggle Within. Like I thought that would have been a cool fucking.
there's a lot of
nobody?
I mean,
Yeah.
you could call it French fries and it'd be a better name. With a photo of French fries on the cover, and it would have been a better cover. I mean, it looks like a 5-year-old drew the snake. I don't know what they're doing with the fucking logo in the corner. How could you not update? Like, I would have done a re-release so long ago with a new cover and made sure no one ever used this as the cover ever again. It is horrific. But anyway, okay. This was released in 1991. So there's your first problem. Okay. It was recorded in 1990. That's your second problem, or maybe first and second. They are now Metallica instead of being like Metallica There, Metallica, pinkies up. I do not like this album. And I mean, I don't talk about any of their other albums because they don't exist to me. This album exists because it was my last attempt with them. And after this, I was just like, no more, motherfuckers. So again, I remember what I was doing when I heard I heard the first song on the radio before I went and bought the CD. And I remember, I think it was Enter Sandman. And I was like, what is this? This sounds like, oh my God. And I happened to be driving in my car with a friend. We were new friends because we worked together. I think I was giving him a ride home. And we hadn't talked about, if we shared music taste. And it turns out he was a metalhead. And he looks over at me and we just gave each other this look like, what's happening right now? And I'm like, is this Metallica? And I was like, I feel like pulling over to cry. I just thought, this isn't happening. So I went and got the fucking CD and listened to the whole thing and then said, yes, this is in fact happening.
Again, it's a unique perspective. Yeah, I came into it later, like Matt. Funny thing is, as much as I loved this album back in the day, maybe it's because I've been listening to more older Metallica. I just don't like it as much as I used to.
Very interesting.
I'm kind of growing apart from this album. To me,
Small steps.
I could keep 4 songs off this album, and the rest, if I never heard them again, probably it'd be, no big deal. Enter Sandman, of course, it is. I still like that song. I still love that song. Sad But True, The Unforgiven, and Wherever I May Roam. To me, I like those 4 songs. The rest of them, yeah.
Ed, I gotta tell you, you are a brother from another mother for sure. In all these years we've been podcasting together, the things we've all been through together, you are my family. But I have to tell you, it's a very good thing that we are not in the same room recording right now because I would have punched you. Not in the face, but in the arm.
Why?
Enter Sadman? I call it Sadman, by the way.
Well, sorry.
Even though you said you weren't as big a fan of the album, she would still punch you.
I would still punch you.
Because that's your favorite song.
I'm going to text your wife and say, can you please just go downstairs and punch him real quick? I'll explain later.
You should just punch to the screen like that and then have her extend the arm and like you're punching.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Wait, that's not in the budget.
Okay, have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Tell me about the song My Friend of Misery. Familiar with it?
You insist that the weight of the world should be on your shoulders? Yeah. I'm familiar with it.
Matt?
Jason Newsted writing credit? Yes.
The Struggle Within?
Yep.
Matt?
Yep.
Through the Never?
Yep.
Yeah.
You sons of
Familiar.
bitches.
I have something to say about that song. Yes.
All right, go ahead, Matt.
What?
No, it's your turn.
No, finish your thought.
No, I'm not.
About those songs.
No, I'm not. I will after you talk.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing here.
Experiment. I'm conducting an experiment.
Okay.
Ed is unconvinced.
Wow, where do I start? So do I start with the songs that I actually can take away from this and enjoy on a regular basis? Maybe. Sad But True. Sad But True, I think, is probably maybe because they play it live so much and I've seen them play it live so much. I think that it translates very well in a live setting as far as crowd reaction goes, but it's catchy enough for me to be like, okay, I kind of like that song. I think Through the Never is another one that catches me enough to actually enjoy. And I think it being so short, I think it's only 3.5 minutes. I think it's just like quick to the point, and it's like, okay, yeah. So I think those two are really the only ones I can take away from this. And I didn't listen to our last Black Album episode. I didn't get that far, unfortunately, in this research. So if I'm contradicting anything I was saying before, this is just me growing as a podcaster the last 3 years and growing and really just learning how to listen to music differently from what we do here. But I think those are really the only two songs that I can confidently say I don't mind.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
There's a hearty endorsement.
Yeah.
So there's a song on this that became pretty famous if you knew me when this album came out, and for probably the next 3 years because this album wouldn't fucking die. So track number 8 is one of the most hated of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw them live must have been right after this. It would have been this tour. I did not want to see them anymore, but one of my best friends that I grew up with, we've known each other since I was 9. She was I had come back. I was in college and I'd come back down to Florida to visit, and she got tickets to see Metallica. And I wasn't going to be like, oh, bitch, listen, I hate them now. I was like, oh my God, thank you. That's so generous and kind. And so we went to Miami, and so track number 8, there's a part in that song where it sounds like he's saying hurls. And playing in a minute. And it sounds like that's what he's saying live and on the album. And so I rewrote the whole song to talk about puking after drinking. If you know the part that I'm talking about. What I think it's when he says nothing else matters, hurls. And
at the end, yeah.
Even doing? Why would you make that sound? That sounds fucking ridiculous.
There are very few Metallica songs where I can openly say, like, there are some that I'm very indifferent about. Most of them I'm very indifferent about. There are very few songs that I can openly come out and say, I fucking hate that song. I fucking hate that song.
Same.
I do.
So bad. Like, but here's the thing about this album. This is them finally processing Cliff is never coming back. They are fucking depressed. This
Correct.
is depression. That's what this album is. It is weighted. And I don't mean heavy, like in heavy metal. I mean weighted. It is weighted. It is pathetic. And I don't mean pathetic. I don't know how best to articulate.
Pathetic may not be the best word. I know what you're going for. I know what you're going for. It's melancholy.
No.
I don't know, but
melancholy would be a good album. It's just depression. It's almost like the stages of grief.
Well,
you know?
Look at some of the names of the songs. My Friend of Misery, Nothing Else Matters. Like, what the hell? Sad But True.
Right.
The God That Failed.
Okay, so let's talk about the stages of grief, right? Denial is number 1. Anger is number 2. So in between, when Cliff died and when Injustice for All, when they're writing Injustice for All, they're in anger for sure, right?
Struggle Within.
As they're touring in between when Cliff dies and Injustice for All comes out, that's denial. Then there's bargaining and depression. This is fucking depression. This is, I think what happened as a listener and as a fan is I went, oh God, they're never going to recover. They're not going to recover. This is what Metallica sounds like now. This is who Metallica is now. This is, I don't know if it means this is Metallica without Cliff. And I don't know that it's fair to give him that much at this point, that much influence over the whole band. Because, Jameson is incredible. He's an incredible poet. As much as I give Lars shit, the two of them together, they formulate incredible music. They write incredible music. Performance is something else. They're insanely talented. So I don't want to give all the credence to the sound being a departure from Cliff. I think it's just them being separated from Cliff. And for me as a fan, I went, oh God, this is what Metallica is now. And I don't like it. And I don't want it. And if I have never heard Metallica before and I find this album, I'd probably be like, oh, this is cool. But if you're old Metallica and you hear this album, oh my God, this is an album you slit your wrist to, that's the imagery that comes to mind. And I feel horrible now for them. And I feel, God, I hope this was a processing point for them as human beings, as people, because, I want to care for them as human beings as well. I don't know if this was maybe the end of that darkness for them and they were able to get it out and process it. And that's what art does for us. But how many times have you heard, the moniker that, an artist gets healthy and then their art sucks? And sadly, that happens. Yeah. That's a real thing.
An artist gets healthy, they bring in Bob Rock, and then their shit sucks.
Exactly.
Like Motley Crue.
Trent Reznor literally said once in an interview, I'm afraid if I get therapy, I won't be able to write music anymore or write music people want to hear. It is, but it's sad, but it's
sad but true.
Sad but true. I don't think that's me. I had planned that, God damn it. That was planned, you motherfucker.
Sorry.
If I was the editor, I would edit that out. But I'm not. You are. God damn it.
Because remember, they brought in Bob Rock because of Bob Rock's the job he did on Dr. Feelgood, which when we talked about Motley Crue was an album that both me and Sailor shit on big time.
Oh, we shit on it. We kicked it. We spit on it. We punched it. We flushed it down the toilet and then kicked it some more. Do you think that at this point they were just like, fuck it? Or do you think they were still being, I feel like at this point they're still being, I think they were strung along for a while. Really kind of, I think there was a bit of indifference. There was a bit of, I don't really have it in me to fight and advocate for myself as an artist or as a band. And then at some point they're just like, fuck that. This is what we're doing now. This is who we are now. Later. Yeah, not that I like anything that they've done after.
Well, I think they came out of this album a markedly different band.
But do you really think they were like, let's get Bob Rock? That makes sense for Metallica.
I don't know if it was them. I don't know if it was their label pushing it on them. I have no idea. But anyway, I'd say I'm definitely a bigger fan of some things that were come later.
I know. I think that once they hit the road and they were on the road for 2.5, 3 years, however long they were on the road supporting this album, and the money just started flowing and flowing and flowing, I think that any transgressions they had back in maybe 90 or 91 when they were recording this album, I think it just went away. I think they embraced the change that they would undergo in 95, 96 with Bob Rock still there. And I just think that they just saw dollar signs and dollar signs and dollar signs, and they were okay with it. They were being artists. They were okay with the change. They were all okay with the avant-garde and the eyeliner and all the stuff that they would do in the mid-90s. So I think that they just kept embracing further and further out from where they were. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I gotta say, We should probably we should probably play a song off this fucking album. You know,
which one do we play?
well, that's the thing. God bless America. Which one do we play?
Do we all think of a number from 1 to 12?
You know what?
Add
I know
it together, then
exactly.
divide it by 3.
I know exactly which one to play. Hold on. I know exactly which one I'm going to play because
Okay.
it just, it's just really about what's happening right now. No. Oh my God. E?
The first lyric and riff, it sounds like a hair metal song. Like,
Oh my
reaching
God.
up for something, you gotta
It
feel.
sounds like a bunch of
Yeah.
kids in a
No.
fucking garage pretending. Like,
Dude.
there was a
Yeah.
minute where I was like, oh, wait, I don't remember this song. And then the lyric starts, and I'm like, what? Oh my God. Who the fuck is that singing right now? That's exactly what it sounds like. Am I wrong? Do I need to play it again? Don't make me
Oh,
No.
God. No, that's all right.
That is not the James Hetfield who sang "For Whom the Bell Tolls," or I mean, come on, I think I said this before. He used to have one of the best, I thought, the best voices in metal for sure. I loved the sound of his voice, and then he sings that. That's what he sounds like. Get the fuck out of here. So, are we in agreement that this album sucks? Is anyone going to fight me on that?
I'm not going to fight you.
That guy right there.
Ed, come on.
I don't know if I would go as far to say it sucks. I would say that it is probably one of my lesser favorite
That means it sucks, dude.
albums. But
That means it sucks. I'm going to put it on the goddamn enemy.
no, you're not.
I'll switch it and make it the number 1 spot. How about that? Right after Larceny.
Oh, God.
I have a question for Sailor, though.
Oh, boy.
Is it possible for you to look at this album in sort of a broader spectrum as far as importance to the time?
No. God, no.
I mean,
No.
can you justify 100 million albums sold or whatever
No.
it was? No.
No. This is exactly
Okay.
where me, as a metalhead in the 80s, never wanted metal to go.
Okay.
So in that respect, yes. This is what we feared would happen. This is what anyone who likes underground music, anyone who likes music that is, a band or a style that isn't popular, what is your fear? Of course you love them, you want them to be successful, you want them to be able to afford food and a house and all those great things, right? You want them to tour, but your fear always is, if they become famous, they will suck. Why is that? Because it fucking happens. And for some reason, it happens with bands, mostly that are underground. And I think it is what we just talked about. You get therapy, you're not angsty anymore, you're not depressed, you're not, you're not totally fucked up, and everything changes. And that's, as a human being, please let that happen to you. But as the fan of the music, if that makes changes in your music, that sucks for us.
That reminds me, going back I don't think this is too obscure of a reference, but going back to Wayne's World, that scene where Garth and Rob Lowe and Garth is like, "We fear change."
That's what he was talking about. That's literally what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it so many times, and it's, you gotta find a way to still, you can be comfortable and you can have a great recording budget, but you can also keep your sound. You can also stay true to your music. But I think in the case with this band, they were so young when they got their success and when they formed their original sound that I think classic Metallica was just, unfortunately, very of the time, very of their unformed. I think they were unformed. And I felt they were fully formed in their classic albums. I needed nothing to change. I needed nothing else but that. But I think obviously as humans and as artists, they were unformed. And this is who they are now as formed artists. And I don't like it, but that's okay, you know?
I always thought Rust in Peace was going to be the album that took everything that happened in the 80s into the 90s. Because it came out in 90. And Rust in Peace is a fucking great album.
Oh my God.
And then this coming out in 91, for real, completely,
yeah,
like
that's a great,
said, kind of
that's a great
erased
example, Matt.
what happened in 1990.
You're absolutely right. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic example. Actually, thank you for that, because I saw him at Megadeth for that tour, and we did think like, I mean, it's not like we were like, oh, it's 1990, everything's changed. Like, you don't feel like that. I mean, did you feel like that from, I don't know, last year, this year? It's like the next day. Who cares? You know, it's not like, oh, everything's changed. When you look back, you're like, oh, fuck, you know, things kind of did change. But you don't feel like that in the moment. I think we just thought like, oh, their next album is really good. Oh, their next album is really shit. I don't think we saw it as like a era change. But I think we had hopes for their next album. Certainly after Rust in Peace. I think, you know, and Justice for All, we didn't see it as the end. We saw it as kind of like, you know, like we were a little maybe on edge, a little perked, a little excited / confused / worried, but unsure, because we were also, well, I was young. But my God, the Black Album. It's called the Black Album because it's the death of classic Metallica. And if you are a diehard
There you go.
classic Metallica fan, you know that's why we call it the Black Album. And now we need taps to play. Burr, burr, burr. And I'll get out my bug axe. And oh my God. I don't want to play any more songs off that fucking album. And you can't make me. I just don't. I don't want to hear it.
Everyone knows the songs. It's fine.
Yes, they do. Which is so unfortunate because my God, was this album popular. Oh, Lord have mercy. I mean, I'm disgusted at
Well, I'm sorry this series had to end on such a low note, but
I mean, if we continued, we could go lower. I mean, think about that.
Oh, please. We did that last time and it was not.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy. Then Jake and I ended up getting to a huge fight afterwards. I think you were still on with us, Matt, for that. And I ended up just shutting my computer and being like, fuck off. No, we don't want to we don't want to talk about the albums after the Black Album. We really don't.
We don't want to have to talk about country metal Metallica.
No, please God.
No. blues metal. Yeah.
Let's don't or let's pretend we're hard rock or hardcore, because we're old dudes now and don't realize hardcore has already been there and done, but we're going to do it commercially and think everybody's going to like it. Let's not do that either. Instead, how about let's do this. Let's play a song off one of our favorite Metallica albums, right? Let's end on that note.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do. All right, let's just do this.
I have a question. I have a question for Sailor though. Another question for Sailor before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
Is there absolutely anything, these guys being in their mid-50s now, that they could do that would get your ear again?
Yeah, of course. I mean, make an album like Kill 'Em All, make an album like Ride the Lightning, make an album like Master of Puppets, or my God, make an album like Injustice for All. Yeah, make one of those albums. Please. Again, stop trying to reinvent your sound.
Do you think
because
they're
I don't
capable
think
of doing it?
we're- Yes. They are.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
of
so
course.
at least you give them that. Okay.
They're the people that did that. Hell
Yeah.
yeah, they are. And they play their old shit. And James' voice changed, which is sad. And it happens. He's a human being, and this happens to many singers, which is unfortunate. So that part sucks because I'm telling you, like, he was one of my favorite vocalists in metal, but hands down, the sound of his voice. But yeah, absolutely they can. I don't know. I mean, they're so rich now. I don't think they do anything for money anymore. I don't think they do anything for acclaim anymore. I think they just do things for enjoyment now, which is a fucking great place to be in. Revisit your original sound. But I don't know if that's, I mean, we're speculating about people too.
You know?
Yeah.
Is it too painful for them? Is it too difficult for them? I don't know.
I thought it would be interesting. What I'm trying to say, thought it would be interesting to see what would happen if they re-recorded And Justice for All with their current lineup.
Can you imagine? That would
how amazing that would be.
Oh my God. Not only that, but they're better musicians now, just by years, right? And experience. It would be incredible. I don't want them to touch anything else before that, but
yeah,
please God, don't.
I don't think they would. No,
I don't think they would either.
No,
they know better. I'd find them and kill them all. Sailor with the puns tonight.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. If only got paid for it. I think that I honestly I have expected them to do that. I think every fucking year of my life since that album came out. Honestly, I really have. I've expected it so many times, especially because go out there when you have a little bit of time to go down a rabbit hole. Go down the rabbit hole of Metallica interviews, and you can start from the most recent. What of the number one questions they are still asked? Still. You guys know what I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
Jason Newsted, the bass on Injustice for All. They're still asked about it. Fucking remake the goddamn album.
They never give a straight answer either.
No, but also bring that poor motherfucker back to play bass on it. I mean,
what's he doing nowadays? I mean,
I don't know, but
he's painting. Yeah,
it wasn't for his lack of talent. That's not what it was about. And I don't think it was. I really don't think it was the band's decision. They have said it wasn't. They were in a fucked up place, man. They were in a vulnerable place, and they got taken advantage of on that album. I really believe that. I think it was a very heavy hand. It was a tough time, and I think it's too bad. But I get it. I get why all of that happened. But go back to. I mean, you could now, like, who cares now? What, you could make an album playing the fucking flute and farting, and people, who cares? You've made your money, you've made your fame, like, but go back to your original sound, and then you would get all your original classic fans back, because I'm not the only one that feels like this. Trust me.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not at all.
I'm sure, like, most of the OG fans definitely feel the same way you do.
And absolutely. I know they Hardwired was a very good effort. I think that they actually tried to have bits and pieces of their entire career and all their sounds meld into one album, because you hear all versions of Metallica in that album, or at least they try.
Yeah, they try.
It was a good effort. But I think you're right, Ed. I think re-recording that album should be their next project. Just forget it.
It should have been their next project 15 years.
A long time ago, yes.
If not 20.
Yeah.
I mean, really. You know? What was it, the 30th anniversary the other day?
Could you imagine if they did that, how well that album would sell?
Oh my God, come on. It would be no, really. I would probably be their best-selling album of all time, ever, ever, ever. Because
I know I'd be first in line.
me too. It would be
Yep.
that perfect intersection of your old fans and your new fans. It would
Oh
be.
my gosh.
It would just be right, mind blowing, and it wouldn't even matter what it sounded like. It would just be that album.
Well, I don't
Because
know if I
that
go that
album is
far,
the
but
pivot point.
I get your point.
Well, if you could hear it first and then go buy it, but that's not usually how it works. I'm just saying, if they release it like you can't hear it first, it would be their best-selling album ever, I think, hands down. So I'm glad we did this, you
Yes.
guys. How do you feel about it?
Very good.
I'm trying to feel what I feel closure. Is that the right?
Yes. Thank you. I do too. I feel cleansed in a way. I feel like we kind of put a nice bow on it. We wrapped it up. Yes, closure is great. It was very unfinished last time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of fighting.
A little chaotic.
It was chaotic. There was a lot of bad feelings. I think
Not permanently. Just
I think some people felt it permanently.
I think we're ready to finally get back to our hair metal series.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll say this. I'm glad that we did this because I do feel like I was very unfair in so many spots. And so I'm really, really glad we got to talk about that and I got to honor them a little bit better because they were my favorite band of all time, ever, 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 ever at one time. And I think it's only fair to honor them as such. And I gave them a much harder time than I probably should have. So yeah, so I'm glad we did this. And it was great to revisit this and see how your perspective has changed as well,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool to see.
Definitely has.
Yep.
And yeah, we should definitely go back to our hair metal series one day.
Yes.
Although when we were at dinner, we were talking about like 3 or 4 different bands that we should
God.
do.
Yes.
And then I'm like, oh wait, maybe we'll never ever get back to our hair metal
I
series.
don't remember any of the bands you talked about, but I remember being really excited about all of them.
Yes.
You'll have to tell me later.
Stay tuned,
I was thinking about
listeners.
that today. Literally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is that the end?
That's the end.
This is the end. My friend. That's another fucking guy I hate with a passion. All right. Let's play a song before we say goodbye. I mean, I'm sure you could tell by my singing exactly who I was talking about, right? Of course you could. Sure.
Yeah.
It's another one of those. Well, we'll discuss another time. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Man. Tell you what. All right. So things we want to talk about before we end. Let's see. Okay. I live in Florida now. Super fucking psyched about it. It's been awesome. I started a little company. Little company.
Yes,
little
you
cocktail
did.
company. It's called sailorguevara.com, and I do cocktail boxes. And I just launched a brand new subscription series, which is cigars and whiskey samples and a cocktail mix. And they will always be old-fashioned mixes. And they will always be paired with an album or artist or genre of music. And you'll get so you'll get 2 cigars, 2 samples of whiskey, and then 8 ounces of cocktail mix. And every month it'll be something different. And April is going to be devoted to Prince because it's my birthday month. So head over to sailorguevara.com and order your subscription. We also have cocktail box subscriptions, and Ed is a new subscriber. Thank you, Ed. Yay!
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, so I've been having a lot of fun with these creations. It's something really good for me. I'm on leave at the moment from my brand so that I can get healthy again and just rest and recuperate and then start a new role in the fall. So I'm doing some writing for American Whiskey Magazine, which has been so phenomenal and has always been my dream retirement. And as I'm edging ever so close, I hope, to retirement, I just thought I'd start early, right? American Whiskey Magazine is such an amazingly cool project. And the woman who is the editor, you guys, we're going to talk about Phoebe. Matter of fact, we should have her on the show.
Yeah,
We
get her
should.
on,
So
for
cool.
sure.
She's a badass young woman who has taken on the I don't even know what to say, the helm and the weight and the awesome project of an American whiskey magazine, which is, as you know, such a male dominated industry, an industry that has been, we need to dust it off, right? Pull it off the shelf. We need to give it some creativity and a spotlight, especially on all of our new distilleries and our craft distilleries and the diversity in our industry. And that's exactly what she's doing. And she's a badass and I'm a huge fan. So that's been really exciting. And Matt and I very soon are going to be bringing you some really fun, as we were shitting on reviewers, we're going to be talking about our favorite whiskeys. We're not going to be talking about whiskeys we don't like because we don't do that. We're going to be talking about new whiskeys that we try and distilleries that we like and things that are new and different. And we'll be tasting them together.
Yes.
We're going to be in the same room, which is super cool.
Yes. We may be visiting some places.
Yes,
too.
we will be visiting
Yes.
some places that are
Yes.
close to us. Hint,
Yes.
hint, hint. So that's going to be really fun. So stay tuned for those on our YouTube channel where you're watching this. And if you're not watching this, you guys, did you know that we have been recording this on video for months now?
Yeah,
and
what
it's
the hell?
the bane of my existence because I have to put on my face every time and not be in my pajamas with like my hair bunched on top of my head and no makeup. And the guys are like, geez, I really wish she didn't have her camera on.
But it only counts what's from the waist up. From the waist down, who cares?
Yeah.
That's
Well, we know what Ed's wearing or not wearing. Yeah.
All I can say is I'm warm and comfortable.
Ed, I think you should show the viewers and let the listeners hear. I'm going to spotlight you. Can you do your present that you showed me earlier?
My
Do you still have it?
I'm trying to remember what you're talking about.
The koozie guy?
Oh, yes.
on.
Okay.
Jesus. Good thing I'm here to
Okay.
keep the show on track.
Here we go. Here, listen. Ready? This is coming from my can koozie.
If you guys can't hear it, it's the Death March. It's a Darth Vader.
Imperial March.
Yeah, sorry, the Imperial March.
Yes. The Darth Vader
That's better.
Imperial Commander koozie. So, yeah, just a little early birthday present from one of my daughters.
I love it. At first, he was like, before we started recording, look at my koozie. I'm like, oh, that's great. You have a Darth Vader koozie. And then he was like, wait a minute.
It's fucking great. Wait, it's not just a
Like, wait,
koozie.
what? So, before we leave, I do want to talk about something we haven't talked about previously. And I think it was expected of us, and we needed to find the right time and the right place and for us to be prepared. Thank you, Matt, for suggesting this. But for me, I've unfortunately lost several friends in the past 6 months, kind of back to back to back. A friend of the show, a former guest of the show, a part of our whiskey family, our whiskey fabric, passed away, and definitely was not right. Don't think I'm still ready to talk about it, to be completely honest. We are definitely going to plan something to honor. We're talking about Scotch Trooper. Tough blow. He was a father and a husband and a son and a whiskey lover and an incredibly talented creator. If you don't know, I'm sure you do if you're listening to this show, Scotch Trooper, just do the Googles and go to Instagram and look at his incredible work. And sadly, he passed away recently. And we will definitely prepare something to honor Scotch Trooper.
Yep.
If you want to go back into the archives and listen to our episode about Tool, which was his favorite band, he is on the show with us. And I had plans so many times to have him back on the show because I had horrible technical issues on that show and ended up getting shit-faced because I was so upset that nothing was working on the computer and my internet was horrible because I was in a cabin in the mountains in the woods with my parents.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I didn't get that opportunity, sadly, but I did get to talk to him shortly before he passed away, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And that's about all I have the capability of saying right now.
Yeah, for anyone that's interested, it was our first season, episode 37. That's all in our back catalog. Our conversation with Scotch Trooper, and he was always, I should save it for the show, but just really quick, he was always a positive guy.
Very
always
much
positive.
Very much so.
Will be sorely missed.
Yeah, for someone who's got so much acclaim to be so down to earth that was just him. So, and we were the first, I believe we were the first show that he was on after the whole thing came out with him. Yes. And they were trying to get him banned from Instagram for stupid fucking bullshit.
Stupid.
And I think we were the first show that he came on after that whole thing had happened. So
one of the first.
One of the first. Yeah. Truly grateful for that. And just terrible news.
Yeah. Right. That sucks. Rough times. I have a hard time talking. I have a hard time with shit like that. Really hard time. So
we'll do something.
Yes. Yep. When I am more composed and we are all ready, we will definitely do a show. I have some ideas to honor Scotch Trooper. In the meantime, it's been a really long time since we talked about our favorite podcasts that we listen to. And I wanted to bring up one because we are recording in the month of March and it's Women's History Month. Fuck yeah. And one of my favorite podcasts is The History Chicks. And Ed, are you fucking with shit again? Why did this pop up? We're live? We've been live this whole time?
No.
We've not been live.
Oh, here we go.
No way. No, we have not been. Okay, anyway, cut this out. So The History Chicks is one of my absolute favorite podcasts, and they were actually mentioned on NPR, which is super exciting. And I have been working on a project where I make a cocktail once a month to pair with their shows, and that has been super fun. So if you want to hear, they do the real deal, like the real lowdown on women in history, and they're all over the map with they've talked about so many different, it doesn't depend on the year, but really incredibly done. Well done. So, give that a listen. What about you guys?
Anything, Ed?
Nothing for me right now.
Matt?
One show, it's a YouTube show, not a podcast, but it's called Critiques and Connoisseurs. It is a new show from our favorite, Jen and mine's favorite wrestling podcast. He's now has a show which is very kind of similar to our show, as weird as that sounds, after he started following us, by the way, but where he talks about a spirit and pairs it sort of with a wrestling event or a match from history. Very short shows, but really well produced and fantastic content. So Critiques and Connoisseurs, it's on YouTube.
Oh,
interesting.
That's happened a lot since we've started.
It has happened a lot.
It has.
Weirdly enough.
Yes. Weirdly.
Yeah.
That's all right.
might be linked with the previous comment about MGP.
I like
But,
being a trendsetter.
Yeah.
I like being a trendsetter, so it's fine.
Exactly.
It's fine. That's all good. So, all right. I think that's it. I think we're done. I think we're out. This is the end of our revisiting Metallica Them All. No need to discuss any albums after the Black Album. We made that clear tonight. If there's any confusion, send us hate mail if you like. I'm always up for it. It's been a while, actually. I used to get a lot of hate mail and congratulatory mail from the show. So thank you to all of our listeners. You guys are awesome. It's been a really long time since I've said that to you guys. But I'm saying it now, and that's all that matters. And how many years have we been doing this, you guys?
This is year number 4.
Year number 4. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm done. You guys get us out of here.
Let's go. All right. So follow us on Instagram at Metal Rock Whiskey and on Twitter at Metal Whiskey. Follow and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, which you're watching right now, hopefully.
You better be.
Metal Rock Whiskey.
I don't put on makeup for them.
If you watch, everyone that listens on Captivate or downloads on iTunes, there is no excuse for you not to check us out on YouTube and subscribe as well. We should have equal numbers across the board. True. If you watch, make sure to hit that thumbs up and turn on that bell, which is down here, I think on this side.
And if you don't hit the thumbs up, I'm going to know you watched, and I'm going to reach out to you and be like, what?
But it's really about the bell, because then they'll get notifications on their phone.
The bell.
Every time we upload new content to the channel.
For whom the bell tolls.
Yes. For whom the bell tolls.
Sailor
Time marches on.
March on. Kick your ass.
Yes.
With that.
And of course, you can find the three of us individually on social media. You can find me on Instagram at The Whiskey Obsessor. That is, of course, whiskey. Save
the E. Because Jenny took it.
It's still there if I ever want to take it back.
Weren't you
you make it sound like they went through a messy divorce or something. She took the E.
I got to go back and look at all those videos from Pretty Good for a Girl. That was pretty fun.
They can always find me on Instagram at Bourbon Geek, of course. And hey, listeners, if you love us or just like us, like Matt was saying, get on there, hit that subscribe button, give us a review, and we'll see you again on the next episode of Metal Rock and Whiskey.
Yeah. Fuck you, Bob Rock.
Later, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.